Welcome back, folks, to our Support Together, Fill Ur Cuppa podcast. I am your host, Mrs. O, and on my right, I have a very special lady called Una Mary Leonard.
Hello, hello.
And on my left, we have a very, very, very special guest who is sponsoring our podcast this year, and that is Shannon Hollywood.
Go Shannon.
Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited to be here.
It's not your first time in the hot seat with us.
No.
It is your second time. You were one of our very first guests. Actually, you were the first guest, I think, on our podcast.
You were?
Yes. And Support Together for your podcast.
Season 1.
Yep.
Oh,
Way back
Shannon.
on the other side of the room.
That is so lovely.
You were, and you're back now, and you're sponsoring.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
How's things?
Things are very good. They are.
All's going well. Kitty's doing good.
Yeah, just firefighting every day. Just
Yeah.
continual.
Normal.
Yeah. Just learning on my feet all the time, like all of us.
I suppose the last time you were here, you had took a wee career break and you were starting off your behavioural consultancy. Am I right in saying?
Yes.
What way is that now?
Amazing. Amazing. I am absolutely loving it. Now, you have to be honest too, though. There's pros and cons. There's definitely pros and cons. The pros are that I'm definitely freer and enjoying kind of getting to all the kids' things and doing all of that. But then on the other side of that, but I'm my own worst enemy. Don't really know how to say no. And like, I think my passion really gets the better of me some days. I'm like, I could do everything, you know, and saying yes to all these bits of work. So yeah, it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. Love being out running workshops for parents and meeting people and chatting and putting the world to rights. And yeah, it's really
Well, I
good.
know well, from watching you on social media, you're definitely very, very busy and you're doing work all over the country. It's amazing to see, and it's definitely something that is needed, isn't it?
Oh, you're on tour, like.
Yeah.
You're definitely on tour. Me, myself and I.
Yeah.
And you realise you are only one person, but
Yeah.
you're trying to probably juggle so much.
Yeah.
But often, I mean, you've learnt through failing, through trying things out, and that's how we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and honestly, fair play to you. It's amazing to watch what you're doing, and you're a local woman. You're a mommy. And that you're bringing your expertise, your learnings, and your honesty, Shannon.
Yeah,
Like,
and
come
you're
on.
helping, yeah. Well,
You haven't got it all right.
I know.
You know, sorry, I need to get that wee bit on everybody. Shannon does not have it all.
I definitely
together.
don't.
That's why we love her.
And that's it. We're all just figuring it out. And I think
Yeah.
we really need to reset our expectations, not only of our kids, but also of ourselves. Like,
Yes.
we're all trying to, like, strive for this idea of perfection that does not exist. That is thrown out there by social media and has us all, like, panicking that we're not doing something right. But we're all amazing.
Well, you know what? That just brings me perfectly into, I suppose, one of the main reasons why, and one of the big questions that I wanted to ask you today. And this is coming from whenever the mummies ring in, or there's a new inquiry for Support Together.
Yeah.
The first person they speak to on the phone or through Messenger or whatever is me. I would usually do the initial calls. And what I'm hearing out of 9 out of 10 calls, possibly I would go to say every call, is mummies struggling with the transition of from one child to two. Now I've done it. I've been there, and I always empathise with them and say, look, I've been there. I totally understand it. But what is that? Like, every mummy that we're speaking to struggles so much with this. I've had this one child and everything's going well, and then all of a sudden I've got the second child and their whole world has fell apart. And like, as you're saying, it's the expectations of social media, but like, how do we change this? How does it stop? Because I know the mummies that we're getting through the door, like, that this is crippling them.
Yeah.
It's taking them to the ground.
And I think, first of all, we need to normalise it. Do you know, like, that is a very normal challenge. Like, and I know for me personally, I found the transition to one okay, whereas I know some friends of mine really struggled with moving to one child. That was a huge change for them. But see, when I moved to two, I was like, oh my word, what is this absolute chaos? And like, I just felt that, like, I felt like the baby really needed me. I felt like my toddler really needed me. And I was one person trying to juggle the day-to-day life of actually meeting everybody's needs and still trying to keep myself afloat. And it was impossible. It wasn't impossible. It felt impossible at the time because it was new. This was a new challenge that I was having to adjust to. And like, challenge brings up so much emotion for us, like anxiety, insecurity, uncertainty, doubting ourselves, the guilt of like, am I giving one more attention than what I'm giving the other one? And how do I possibly manage this? And I think when you make that transition, first of all, normalizing it, this is normal. What I'm experiencing is normal. And the more that I do it, the more I practice, it's going to get easier.
Yeah.
But it's like we have to go through the storm to get to the other side of it. And when we come out the other side of it, we'll feel a lot more confident and we'll be able to handle it in a very different way. So the normalizing bit is key.
Yeah.
When we look at kind of the guilt that we feel sometimes, I think you just constantly feel guilty.
I know guilt is a massive. The guilt.
We give birth to guilt.
You know, don't we? We're guilty if we're working. We're guilty if we're at home. We're guilty if we're spending time with one child. If we're it never ends.
No.
So even just accepting that a little bit, you know, and maybe like, what is this trying to tell me? You know,
guilt, I think, seems to be. I don't hear very many men talk about guilt. The woman and the mother seems to hold the guilt.
Yeah.
And that's a massive part of the conversations that I'll be having with the mummies on the phone, and it's the guilt that they have, and it's what way is who's going to affect the relationship then with my toddler because I'm spending more time with the baby and or I'm not giving enough time to the toddler, or the guilt is massive, and we talk about guilt in postnatal, the hookah guilt that the mummies have. So it's huge, like, and as you say, trying to normalize it, but whenever you're in that storm, these mummies think that they're the only person in the world that's happened to.
Yeah.
And that the pressure and the what's the word, is it berating that they give themselves because they're not doing it, like they're feeling this is so bad.
Yeah, and I know you said men don't carry guilt, but they carry something much different, you know, and they go out working harder, you know, and we've had Vic here sitting in your seat, and he said he was terrified. How is he going to love a second child as much as he loved the first, and how do you spread your love? And he said that was overwhelming for him, you know, and he couldn't get excited about stuff, and then when he realised, here, you do have enough.
You do.
Your heart is massive.
The heart grows.
Yeah.
And, like, it's such, I think when you have two children, then in them early days, you are firefighting. It's really, really hard, and you're fighting all of them really difficult emotions. You're managing everybody's needs. It really is a huge adjustment. But as your two children start to get older and you see them interact with each other and you see them play a wee bit more and you're nurturing their relationship together, and all of a sudden now they have this other person in their life, you know, and like their sibling will be the person that they are going to go through life with entirely, you know, and
that's
like
right.
you start to see that wee relationship grow, and that's lovely, you know, so you start to get all of these other positive feelings in there then alongside the guilt and the frustration and all of that, which makes it a bit easier.
I know. I think for us, the normalizing, like we need to get this conversation in during pregnancy.
This, you've taken the words right out of my mouth.
It's no good. It's no good worrying and being sat on with all this guilt whenever the baby's here. Have this conversation, and it's something to think about whenever you're pregnant with baby number 2.
Yeah.
Or even when you're pregnant, as you said, baby number 1, things change.
Yeah.
We always start with you're a first time mum, yes, but you're a first time mum to 2 children. You're a first time mum to 3 children. That's a whole new
first time. It's you know, as this whole thing now in TikTok and social, is about your mommy and daddy realize it's their first time to live. You know, we often are so hard on ourselves, and social media, we know that. Listen, it's fake. You know, none of us put up the whole truth and nothing but the truth. You know, we put up, especially in our thing, you know, your marketing and trying to promote the illness. But that conversation, listen, I was pregnant for 9 months, very lucky to be, but I didn't have that conversation with Michael at all about what it's going to look like being a mummy.
Yeah.
All we talked about was the nursery,
practical
stuff.
Yeah.
This Wayne, all going well, is going to be about for a hell of it's going to outlive me.
Yeah.
But we never talked about, you know, when this baby was going to be in our arms.
Yeah.
Then, sure, we didn't even do it again for the second.
No.
And
So we didn't learn the first time.
But you get, and I don't why can't we just sit down and have a conversation what this might look like, having baby 2, and working in a partnership. And some people are not lucky enough maybe to have their partner with them or whatever. But what does that look like? Who's there? Where is your village? Villages don't need to be big. Who is that person that you tag? Who's that person that you support? And my mummy's come into us And they show me photos of themselves, and often it's their wedding or, nights out with their friends before they become mummy. They are you wouldn't not recognise them. Now, I know lipstick, powder and paint and whatever else accessories is put on, but I mean they don't know they don't look like themselves at all. You see it in their eyes, the shift, the change, and then they get lost in it. They get lost in the hood.
Yeah.
And I would love it that mummies and daddies and people out there are not staying in the hood. I call it the hood, and that's where you land. You're terrified. You haven't a clue what's going on. You're surviving. You're just about. You're not thriving.
Yeah.
Why can't we start thriving quicker?
What's that about?
What's that about, Shannon? Is it taking guilt? Shannon, what's that about? Is it just taking guilt from the previous, or generational guilt? What is it?
Do you know what I really believe is that a lot all stems back to how we have been disciplined while we were growing up.
Okay.
And, so like when we're growing up and you do something wrong, how were you made to feel?
Bad. You've done something wrong, and you should feel there's guilt put on you.
You should feel guilty about that because you haven't got it right, so to speak. So now we are in parenthood and we've got certain expectations of how this should look. And it does not look like the reality.
No.
It's very, very different to the picture or the idea that we have in our head. Like I thought, perfectly dressed little babies, long walks, children laughing and playing together and having fun and listening to me when I said something. The reality, it was very different. Me and a husband who were resentful of each other, who fought, who crying at night time because I was thinking, how am I going to get up tomorrow morning and do this all over again? Frustration when my little girl wouldn't put on her shoes, the baby crying and thinking, how am I meant to juggle these two sets of needs? That didn't look like what it was meant to look like. So straight away I felt like I was doing something wrong. And how do I always feel when I'm doing something wrong?
Guilty.
So my key thing is about really resetting our expectations of what it should look like and what we should be doing as parents, or like what real life is meant to be like, and ultimately when we were disciplined growing up, how we were disciplined, or the generation before us did the very best that they could with what they had, 100%. So this isn't about blame or saying that anybody got it wrong. But really, we should have been nurtured in a way that it's okay to make mistakes. Yes. It's okay. Challenges are a very normal, natural part of life. And when you get it wrong, you're still loved, you're nurtured, you're shown how to do it differently. So I don't think there would be so much guilt and shame then as adults in them situations when you feel like you're getting it wrong. I think it would be so much easier to reach out for support if that's actually what you had experienced throughout life.
Yeah. So we're parenting often from a guilty perspective, so that's our inner child even.
Yeah.
So often I could be parenting from the 8-year-old version of Una because the child's been at school, they're around that age, something happened to me and then I react.
Yeah.
And as you're saying, if we are carrying a lot of guilt, there's wee alarm bells goes off at times and you don't know why you're reacting the way you're reacting.
Huge reactions to things that maybe in the grand scheme of thing, you're like, why am I reacting?
Exactly. And then you get frustrated with yourself. Yeah. So if a mommy is sitting there and she's reacting to something and wonder what advice we could be giving her.
Well, it doesn't, first of all, you're not a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong at all. And like I always say in my workshops, like I don't know about you ladies, but nobody ever sat down with me and said, it's okay to be angry, pet. It's okay to feel frustrated.
Well, anger was a bad emotion. You weren't allowed.
It just wasn't allowed to be experienced. So nobody had them conversations of normalizing and validating your anger and your frustration and saying to you, whenever you are angry, you can't hit anybody, you can't shout, you can't scream, you can't do all of these things. But what can you do instead? Well, you can do progressive muscle relaxation. So you can squeeze your hands really, really, really tight and release to kind of send signals to your body to calm down. You can take deep breaths by smelling the flowers and blowing out the birthday candles. Them conversations did not exist when we were growing up. Now we're in parenthood with all the demands of the modern world, trying to manage the needs of children in a very different environment to what we grew up in. So of course we're stressed. Of course we're overwhelmed. Of course we're frustrated. And we've never been taught the skills of how to manage this frustration. So when we're losing it or we're shouting or we're getting overwhelmed, that's because our brain is reacting in the only way that it knows how. We're not actually doing anything wrong. So I think the first step is just validating yourself. Of course I'm frustrated. Flip, I'm dealing with a wild lot here, you know, and I'm doing my best. So really just giving yourself a bit of compassion and recognising how incredible you really are.
Offering reassurance to yourself.
And then the second step is noticing, right, I don't want to shout. I don't want to be frustrated. I don't want to feel like this in them situations. So what is it that I need to work on? What is it that I need to do? Is it a skill that I don't have? Is it an environment issue that I can kind of alter to help myself feel calmer? Is it asking for more support? And then really working on doing that. And again, just because you do that once doesn't mean that the next time you're not going to get frustrated.
Yeah.
I only said to my husband maybe about a year ago, I feel like I can stay calm now. Like my eldest is 10 and I've been working on this since they were born, and I was like, I feel like I can stay calm now, when she was 9.
And because you're not, sometimes we end up turning up when the child's throwing a tantrum. We end up mirroring them. We're throwing a bloody tantrum.
Absolutely.
That's not what they need, and that's not what I need.
Yeah.
You know, and nobody benefits from that.
Nobody benefits from it, but it happens, and it's so normal to kind of get into that space.
Yeah.
But it's recognising it, acknowledging it, validating yourself, and then thinking, right, what am I going to work on? And like the amount of times that I've apologised to my kids, been like,
About to say that.
Mum, I
Nothing
should
wrong
not.
with that.
Yeah.
I've shouted at
Nothing
you
wrong
there.
with saying
Like,
that's, you would never have heard that
No,
done the
never.
generations gone by. And I would admit when I've overreacted, and I'll come back and my calm state of mind because I'm modelling.
absolutely.
But I didn't realise that's what I was doing. And there's nothing. Now, sometimes apology takes a wee bit longer to come out of me. Depends.
This is Fill Ur Cuppa, the Support Together podcast, and we couldn't bring you today's episode without the support of Shannon Hollywood, behavioural consultant. Shannon supports parents with a compassionate, research-based approach that focuses on connection, emotional safety and co-regulation, not punishment. Her courses and online content are designed to help parents stay calm and confident and connected, especially during challenging moments. And remember to follow Shannon on all her socials.
Well, I'm going to throw one out there because actually I am sitting here thinking to myself, Ciara, you're doing a good job at home.
And you are doing a good job.
Eamon might be thinking that because I am the one that does, I would shout, but I would shout, like, not shout orders, but I'd be like, right, bit of discipline here, this has to be done, whereas he's that laid back. But I find myself not reacting, and whenever the kids would react, it's Eamon reacts, and I have to kind of calm him.
Yeah.
And once I calm him and kind of really explain it, no, we're not doing that there that because of this reason, and you go like talk him through it, then it kind of settles the whole thing because he reacts where I don't. And maybe that's something that I've learned. I know that I definitely have learned to not react and not shout and like ask for the explanation why when if something happened in school, well, explain to me what happened. And help me understand it, and then we'll talk it through. There's no big flip. I don't go to 10 where he would go to 10, and then I'm having to calm him down, and then he has to come back and apologise to me on the way. If you know what I mean, if that makes sense. And maybe that's a generational thing because he is older than me, but
then you've been given all this knowledge and that's what I find. I'm coming with all this knowledge, and Michael hadn't got that. And
like I'm offering reassurance nearly always to Eamon. But I would reassure the Waynes, but I think he will sometimes need more reassurance than the children because.
But you keep telling us he's the biggest Wayne.
He is the biggest Wayne of the whole lot.
She would say, Eamon's the biggest. I've got 4.
He is. And there's me. That's exactly, there's it. I'm having to calm him down and reassure him probably more so than I'm doing the children.
Yeah.
Do you find that coming to your door a lot, Shannon, in your sessions? Women saying that their husbands or their partners are nearly like having another child.
Well, absolutely. And I think like couples will always parent differently.
Of course,
because
where
they
they've
come from different walks of life. We have different training, different backgrounds, different experiences. So when I'm working with a couple, one will always be that more authoritarian. You do what I say, not what I do, and kind of like very strict. And then the other one will be kind of more permissive, what we would refer to. So kind of like giving in and, sure, it's all right. And just let them kind of do what they want to do. And it is getting a nice balance. They have everything there. It's just putting them two things together.
Exactly.
And like what you said earlier, Una, you were saying, why do we not talk about this stuff before we have children? Because it's our expectations that everything's going to be perfect and fine. We think that you just have a baby and it's grand.
Stop the bus here. Where did we ever think that everything's going to be? Where does that come from? This is the biggest thing we've ever will do as a couple. Why do we not have these conversations about how we're going to parent this child?
We did have a conversation, because I remember doing it. We had to do a marriage course, County Down, Irish Street, I think it was, 2-day course, and I remember having a conversation with Eamon about when we have children, how we're going to parent and what it's going to look like, because his upbringing was completely different to mine, and I knew what I didn't want, and he knew what he wanted, and I wanted the same as him. So it was together, and that conversation was held before we even got married.
Brilliant.
But that's amazing. Yeah. But there's often women, and they're the ones that go in and start it off. This is what we're doing, and often the partner isn't included in that. Yeah. And he's like a waddling duck, and that's why he ends up becoming the other child sometimes.
Well, there's that too.
He's afraid. I'm afraid to do it wrong. What way? Well, sure, I'll never do it right anyway. Yeah. And I often be saying to mummies, right? I say to the mummy, women, now hopefully my husband's not listening to this, right? But I says, you see, the trick to the trade is what I've learnt. We give off a lot, right? Because we're scundered, and when a woman stops complaining, that's when a man apparently needs to start worrying. But I don't know. But anyway, you didn't do this and you didn't do that, and sure the way, and you didn't dress the way, and look at the 2 odd socks you put on them. And, Jesus, you didn't send them out like that today. And all they hear is the negative. And I goes, you know what you do? It's women would tell us, oh God, he made the dinner yesterday. I goes, he made the dinner. Did you say anything about me? Well, should I make the dinner? And I go, hi, but you see, you turn around and you say to them, do you know what? You made that dinner. That actually meant a lot to the family, to me.
Praise him.
Praise him, right? I says, he'll stand taller. He'll be like a peacock. You think he's mighty. And he'll make the dinner more often. I says, but also when you dress the way and wrong, you just sort of, look, thanks for dressing the child. I know I'm going to have to put on different socks, but I appreciate the child being dressed. I said, it's about creating that pathway. I said, because this is what we're getting fed back by the men. Okay, that's what they feel I'm always doing it wrong. So I end up not doing it at all. Yeah. And I would say to women, do you want to be doing everything? No, I do not. And I go, aye. So there's a wee trick to the trade. Eventually when you do that, it's a new pathway for them.
And you're also bringing up a really important point, right? Is that we cannot control how other people behave.
No.
But what we can control is how we behave.
And how we react.
This is what changes everything. And
big time.
I remember, because I would have done all of this stuff with the children, just what you're talking about, changing how I respond to get a different response back from them. And I remember in the early days of parenting, and that conversation of I'm so tired, and it used to drive me mad. Every time my husband said he was tired, I honestly was like, I am going to move out of this house and divorce you, and that is it. I couldn't even look at him every time he said he was tired, because I was the one getting up every night.
Yeah.
I was like,
how are you tired?
How are you even saying this to me? What is that about? So I would ignore him, or I would say, well, how could you be tired? I would bite back, rather than just acknowledge what he's saying to me. And we would always just kind of have that friction in the evening. And I remember one day he came in and he said, I'm just so tired. And I was like, well, of course you're tired. You're working really hard. Your late nights, early mornings. I know you mightn't be getting up in the night, but all the noise and all of that is definitely disrupting your sleep. So of course you're tired. Do you see the change in the evening that we had? Do you see the change just in how he behaved in the house, and then ultimately how I behaved with him? Because I controlled what I could control. So I couldn't stop him from saying that he was tired. I couldn't control that situation anyway, but I took control back in an area that I could, and that ultimately changed everything.
Because you connected, didn't you?
But you were validating his feelings. He probably did feel tired. Yes, you were tired as well. But I suppose it's it's a different story. It's not feeling tired, but coming home and brush the floors, have you? Oh, lovely. And I would come home and I'd be like, you brush down fucking floors there. I'm going to have to go back now and brush them again because they're not half done. And I've learned. Una's looking at me there. See the way she's looking at me. I was like, oh my, thank you. That's brilliant. It used to rag. I had sit in my hands, not get up, don't brush the floors. Don't brush the floors till he leaves. Don't let him see you. Rebrush the floors because they're not half done. Now I have to sit with it a bit. That's fantastic. That means I don't have to worry about doing the floors this evening. That's great. Thanks, Eamon. And he was walking around like a peacock. There's another saying I could say there, but I'm
You're not saying it. No, that'll be beep, beep, beep. But it's not, I don't mean, yeah, and it's like anybody in your work or your friendships, if you're always doing and somebody's always seeing the negative in what you calls out what you don't do, that becomes exhausting.
Yeah.
So it's not about that we're standing there praising, and it becomes near another Wayne. It's exactly acknowledging to build a connection. So the two of us are trying to get in. We're not meant to be in different lanes.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming together as a partnership, whether we're parenting apart. There's people who have to parent apart and they do it really, really well. There's people who parent together and they don't do it good at all.
Yeah.
You know, so it's but it's about being in the same lane. It's about, you've talked about before, you know, the choices, the consequences is how do I want to parent my family? What does this look like? Yeah, I'm going to bring in how I was parented, so was he or so was she, but what are we going to do?
Yeah.
This is our unit now, and we talk away about the inner circle and support together, and I have to often bring people back in. Who's in your inner circle?
Yeah.
Because we get too worried about what the Joneses are doing or what everybody else. We start to compare, which leads to despair. It affects our inner circle, our golden moments.
Yeah.
You know, yes, he might come home at 7 o'clock at night because he's working all day, but when he comes home, he baths the baby. He baths the children. You know, we've built a routine. Yeah, next door, he comes home at 4 o'clock and they're away playing football, maybe. But he mightn't do other stuff. It's that bloody...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Jesus, it's a disease. Like, it's an absolute disease.
But then
Disease.
I suppose
Disease.
if I bring it back, and it's something that whenever you were talking about the guilt, we're changing it for the future.
We are.
So we're not bringing, like, the guilt is what we were made feel or how we were parented. We're changing it so that hopefully my children, whenever they're able to feel their emotions and understand their emotions and regulate themselves, and they're not bringing the guilt forward for them.
Yeah.
So we're making the change.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
There's so many wee small changes that we can make even as parents, you know, when we do have that second baby. And because, like, wee simple things that we wouldn't maybe even give much thought, but actually make a real difference to the connection that we have with our kids. And one that's just jumping to mind, is just in there, is, you know, often whenever we have our second baby and they're just so tiny, and we look at our toddler and they're getting so big, and we're like, oh, you're such a big boy, or such a big girl, and, you know, you can be so helpful. They don't want to be. No. They want to be the baby.
Of course
they want to be the one that's dependent on mummy or daddy, because they still are.
Yeah.
And they want the cuddles and they want all of that. And I think we assume that we're doing a really positive thing by saying, you know, you're so big now and you're so independent, and come on, you can do all of this, or you can do that on your own now. But actually saying to them, instead of doing that, you know, you're still my baby as well. And come, you jump up beside us and snuggle in. And, you know, there's no expectation of you to be any different, because you're still my little one as well.
Exactly.
You know, so really setting that too, because sometimes we try to help them to feel independent and kind of like sailing their own wee boat, but actually that creates disconnection, which will then all be communicated through behaviour. And then you can start to feel tension then in them little relationships. So little changes to even the things that we say or how we interact can make a massive difference.
And I suppose what we had spoke about just before we hit record was about the baby and splitting your time and thinking, but actually the baby a toddler needs a bit more attention than the baby, because the baby's fed, watered, sleeping and safe. And then that's where, you know, the toddler's there, and give them, they still need the routine and the structure, but that's where you kind of give it more to them. And
if you think, like, if a baby that's maybe breastfeeding, the amount of physical contact that they will have with a parent throughout the day, you know, they're sleeping in the parent's room. And, like, funny, I chatted to my little girl about this the other night, because she's 10 and she started to come into our bed loads. Now, not sleeping there all night. Some nights she will ask to stay, but she'll come in and she'll lie and she'll read with us at night and all. And I was thinking back to whenever she was little, and we were living with mummy at the time because we were moving house. And our littlest, so our baby with Jackson, he was sleeping in the room with us and she was sleeping in another room, but she was only 2. And there was one night I was going to bed, and this has just been actually playing on my mind for ages. And she had stood up, she had a side on the bed, and she was in the bed, and she'd stood up and she'd said, Mummy, Daddy and Jackson all together. and her in this other room by herself. And I had actually spoke to her about it the other night. I was saying, you know, I'm so sorry that I just didn't scoop you up and take you into bed with us as well. I was like, but it was so cramped, it was so tiny. And like there were nights that I did go in with her, but like they feel all of that, you know, like they do. And again, we're just doing our best. We're absolutely doing our best. We can't fix all of them things, but yeah, the toddler does need you just as much, you know, as the littlest does, and the baby will get a lot more, even from other people. You know, everybody wants to hold the baby, everybody kind of wants the cuddles and all of that. As toddlers get older, they're more independent, they're doing their own things, so they're not getting as much physical contact and touch and all of that. They still need it just as much. One thing that I would always recommend if you have made that transition to 2 is starting to do one-to-one time with your toddler.
Yeah.
And me and my little girl, now we were very fortunate, we lived in mummy's, so mummy was there in the evening whenever my husband was working, so I was able to get out of the house. I know that's not always possible for people, but there's different ways that you can do it. But we would have went swimming every Wednesday evening and then went to the cafe and shared a big plate of chips.
Lovely.
And it
That was
just
your
the thing that
golden
we done.
moments. Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you need that too. Like, we need one-to-one time with our children, because when we're out of the house away from all the other responsibilities of other children and just household tasks and seeing what needs to be done, we're different people.
Yep.
So you get a wee chance to like reconnect with them.
Yeah.
Now,
Have a bit of fun. They can see
fun
this.
and crack.
That mommy is a
Yeah.
wee bit of a silly sausage at times.
I suppose then there's another thing I suppose coming up in the conversations is baby one or the toddler was in childcare.
Yes.
And I've pulled them out.
Yeah.
And you know, I wouldn't need them to go back, but I feel guilty that I'm at home anyway, so why can I not manage the 2 together at home? And I feel so bad, and there's other people judging me because I have him in childcare. What I would always try to explain to mummy is this child's been in childcare, in nursery, he's a routine, he says be friends. You know, there's nothing wrong with sending them on.
Yeah.
Sure enough, money could be tighter whenever you're
half
off
the time you
maternity
have
leave.
to pay for it anyway. You have to keep your
space.
slot open.
But that's another thing that's coming through in conversations. I feel so bad. It's either bad that you've sent them on and they're in childcare and you're at home anyway, and why are you not keeping them at home? Or else that I have them at home and I have to send them on and I shouldn't want to. So like they're torn either way, whatever they do. Is that normal? Is that like, how do we? Am I doing the right thing when I'm saying like they need the routine, or what do you think?
I think there's no right or wrong to this. I think everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
What I would be aiming for, whatever helps me to feel most regulated, is the right answer. So if my child going to maintaining their wee consistency at daycare, and like that, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
If your child is so used to going to daycare, they're just doing their own wee
Yeah.
routine.
And they're playing
But
and they're
like,
meeting people and
the importance is that we reconnect after that. You know, like your toddler comes up and you're like, I missed you so much today. It just wasn't the same without you in the house. You know, I missed hearing you laugh, and I missed we're reconnecting in that way.
Yeah, that's
that they
wonderful.
know that
Yeah.
they're so valued.
Yeah.
And then maybe when they do get home, we just put a wee bit of time aside to actually connect with them. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying you need to sit in the living room floor for the next 2 hours.
No.
I'm saying 5 minutes.
Yes.
You know,
Or
of
5 minutes
play
on the
and
way home.
tickles and
Yes.
right. But whatever helps you to feel more regulated. So if your toddler going to daycare actually gives you that breathing space to get on top of the things that you want to get on top of, actually have a bit of time with the baby, watch an episode of something while your baby sleeps. Whatever it is, that when you pick your toddler up from creche or daycare, that actually I am here, I'm present, I'm ready for you now, you know, and I feel good. Quality over quantity, always, you know. Whereas for some parents that might be the opposite. It might be actually sending them to daycare and doing the runs and dropping off and getting ready and all actually makes me feel more stressed. So having them at home with me now and me getting into my routine here is more regulating for me.
Yeah.
So every situation will be different. There is no right or wrong. It's looking at it as in terms of our little family system, what helps me to feel most regulated, what works best for us as our wee unit.
Yeah. It's just another something to beat themselves up with guilt.
oh, sure, here, and I, lady we used to work with, Lisa, and she was our counsellor as well, and we and her used to have deep conversations about guilt. Guilt feeds cancer, all of the other illnesses. It does. Guilt is awful. I sit with my guilt now. And I just go, well, what's this about, Una?
Yeah.
And I do talk to myself, folks. Now, if you see me in the car and I'm chatting, it's most likely to myself. And it's great now that people think you're chatting
On the phone.
on the phone. But I just go through my day and I'm chatting away. And I often, what's that about?
Yeah.
What am I going on? And that's feeding my emotional intelligence also.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
That's by regulating you, though. You're able
Exactly,
to talk stuff
yeah. Because I need cradled.
Yes.
You know, but guilt. That's we get when a mommy comes through the door. There's no doubt she's carrying a rucksack. You know, not physically, not that you can see, but you know, mentally on her back, and it's guilt.
And I always think as well, when we talk about guilt, like shame too. Shame
Yes,
that,
Shannon. Yes,
you know, I've reacted in that way, or you know, I've done something that I didn't want to do. You know, like I think that's a massive one as well. And like Brené Brown, do you know Brené Brown?
No.
She's brilliant. She actually thinks she used to be a social worker, but she done a lot of research into emotions. So she wrote a book called The Atlas of the Heart that I always recommend. It's very, very good.
I'll have to look that
kind
up.
of details
Write
all of
that
her
down.
emotional research. But she had said a line at the start of that book that I use regularly throughout my workshops and my work with parents. When we don't normalize something, we create a source of shame.
Yes.
And
That's us. That's about us there.
Yeah,
when growing
that's
up,
right.
none of our emotions were validated
No.
or normalized.
No.
Okay, so you were made to feel guilty. You were made to feel bad whenever you done something wrong, when you reacted out of anger or frustration or whatever it is. Then we're kind of sailing along, you know, when we're pre-children. We were just talking there about what did we do before we had children. I don't really know, right? But we were sailing along with not very much frustration or anger. Then all of a sudden we're catapulted into meeting this other person's needs 24 hours a day.
Sleep deprivation,
And that
all that.
Just brings up so many different emotions. Frustration, anger, guilt, resentment. And you're like, my God, I'm such a bad person for feeling like this. But it's not that you're a bad person at all.
No.
It's just none of this has ever been normalized. So now when you're experiencing it, you're feeling shame as a result.
Yeah.
You know, and that is so bloody true. And I got to the stage in my life, I used to turn around and go, do you know what? Today, actually, I was a shit hot mama. I'd done really well today. And then it could be tomorrow, I could be a 10% mama. Like, I could be an absolute think.
But there was the best you could do.
That's the best I could do. And there was mistakes I made. And that's okay. Nobody was hurt. You know, no intentions of hurting anybody, all of that. But mistakes as in, I didn't maybe have, you know, I got a McDonald's maybe instead of a dinner or something like that. Crack, you know, sometimes.
They were still fed.
Still fed, right?
They
So they're
starved.
fed.
Yeah.
So that's the way you have to talk, because the dark side can come in and be a dictator to you and say that you're useless and you should. See this, you should.
Yeah.
You should. Why are you not?
You should have been home boiling spuds.
But I've been working hard and and sure I stopped off and when you reassure, so there's days I used to be I've got this.
Yeah.
And then there's days I'm going, I just want to hide in the toilet and I don't want to come out of it.
And do you see, even on them days we are hiding in the toilet, you don't want to come out. There will still be things that you've done really well.
I know.
Yeah.
Of course.
We were talking earlier about, you know, your husband maybe comes in and you validate that actually he's feeling tired or that he's brushed the floors or whatever it is that he's done. The reason that can be so hard for us to do for our partners is because there's nobody standing beside us doing it for us.
No.
Yes.
But the reality is that stuff ultimately has to come from ourselves. Do you know? So, and if we really want to kind of take control and change our relationships and be more compassionate and validate our children's feelings, our partners, and be that person, we can't do that without giving it to ourselves first.
That's where it starts. That's what you're saying.
That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And like we talk so much about like self-care in parenting spaces and generally as a society, and like self-care has become this massive market that people are trying to sell stuff to. You know, if you have this candle, you're going to be calm. Like that's nonsense. Like
I'd bloody eat a candle then if I was going to be.
Self-care is free.
Yes.
Self-care is free,
Exactly.
and one of the most important and hardest self-care things that you can do is at the end of your day to get yourself a little journal and jot down the 3 things that I've done really well today as a parent and that I'm really proud of myself for.
Yeah.
Now you can put in there, what's the one thing that I want to work on, because we're always developing ourselves. Like
One now. No, that's just one.
we're just one, but like we're always developing ourselves, and I think that's key. Like we're humans, we're continually growing, so we need to recognize, right, what's not working that I want to change, and we'll work on that. But that has to be in line with the 3 amazing things that I done today as a parent.
And it is your perception. Like, we're doing a big piece of work there about perception and your rose-tinted glasses and people how people view the world, and it is like, and I might look, and often our perception back to social media, I look in at somebody and think, God, they have got everything, their shit together. But if you spoke to them, they'd be saying to you, no, you might think, but here, to get us to the park today, do you know, it took me 2 days to prepare myself mentally to come here. And I've captured them moments for social media for me more, because it'll be a memory to realise I did actually do some things with the kids.
Yeah.
Do you know, and our perception isn't it?
Yeah,
Like, we were doing a big
perception was very good.
really big piece of work, and we often get a lot of mummies that look at, oh, they've got their mummy, they've got their daddy, you know, granny and granda's there, and their life must be better because my mummy and daddy isn't here, or I don't have any sisters, or I don't have. Jesus, Shannon, this compare.
Yeah.
Do you know, and it's you lose you lose your whole track. You become dysregulated. Sorry, but that doesn't work. You become so unbalanced. Like,
you need to focus on your own wee
inner
space,
circle,
don't you?
Yeah,
you really do.
Join us next week for part 2 of Fill Ur Cuppa, the Support Together podcast, hosted by me, Mrs. O, Ciara O'Gowan, and the S2 team. And we couldn't bring you today's episode without the support of Shannon Hollywood, behavioural consultant, and produced by 9874 Creative.